Hello and welcome back to Bicyclelegs and another edition of Studio Albums Ranked. Although whether we can really call today's show Studio Albums Ranked is a bit debatable because we're going to be looking at the main albums by the band The Nice, which was Keith Emerson's band before Emerson, Lake and Palmer, for those who may not know. And their albums, especially after the first two, tended to be very much a mix of studio tracks and live tracks. But I wanted to look at the 5 albums that are sort of considered the main body of work by this band, sort of not including compilation albums and like live albums that were released long after the band had ceased to be. So I'm going to be looking at those main 5 albums. And I've got to say, I do love all of these albums. My one at the bottom is definitely at the bottom for a reason. I still like it. The other 4, the order could really change from day to day because I really love all of these albums. Although it's a short discography, it's a really, really strong discography. Anyway, let's get on with my number 5, which is Elegy from 1971. This was actually released after the band had broken up. There's only 4 songs on this album. 3 of them had been previously released in other versions. There's 2 live songs and 2 studio tracks. It's still a really good album, but it definitely has the feeling of something that's been cobbled together after the band broke up. The live version of Hang On to a Dream is really good. The studio version of My Back Pages by Bob Dylan, also really good. That's the other thing, there's no original material on this, it's all covers. There's a studio version of the third movement Pathétique Symphony of Tchaikovsky with just the group, no orchestra. And then there's a live version of America, Second Amendment. Good album, but definitely the weakest of their albums. But as I say, still a good album, still worth listening to. My number 4, from here it gets really hard for me because I really, really love all of these albums. And my number 1 is always going to be my number 1. But my 2, 3, and 4 could definitely change places depending on what day you ask me. But my number 4 for today is going to be their third album, Nice, from 1969. Again, this is a sort of a combination of studio tracks and live. Like side 1 is studio tracks, side 2 is live performances. Side 1's really good. Azrael Revisited is a re-recording of a non-album single called Azrael that they'd put out very early in their career. Their cover of Hang On to a Dream is absolutely beautiful. Diary of an Empty Day is a good song, and For Example is fun too. It's interesting to hear them do a blues. Side 2 is the live side. They do a live version of Rondo, which is very good. And then they do a wonderful version of She Belongs to Me by Bob Dylan. So really good. Could be my number 2 or my number 3 on a different day, but today I'm ranking it at number 4. My number 3 is going to be their second album, Ars Longa Vita Brevis. Can't quite remember whether this came out in late 68 or early 69. I think it might have been early 69. Really good. Mine is an American pressing, and on the American pressing they actually added America and Second Amendment to the beginning of side 1, but I won't really count that because that wasn't on the original release. Daddy, Where Did I Come From, Little Alabama, and Happy Freud's are sort of relatively short songs, have more of that psychedelic feel that their first album has. Then you get the intermezzo from Corelia Suite, which is wonderful. Donadito El Groover is just a little sound effect thing right at the end. Side 2 is the side-long epic Ars Longa Vita Brevis, which is a really good side-long epic. The most famous part of it is the third movement, which is known as the Brandenburger, where they take a part of, I think it's the second Brandenburg Concerto, and incorporate that into the piece. It's a good side-long epic. Not their best side-long epic, because I think their best side-long epic is on the album that is my number 2, and that is Five Bridges. This is from 1970. And side 1 is mostly live, this album. There's one studio track right at the end. Wonderful, wonderful album though, and I've always absolutely adored the Five Bridges suite, which takes up all of side 1. It was originally recorded as a commissioned work for the Newcastle Arts Festival. It's just a really wonderful piece. It combines the group with orchestra, as do a lot of the tracks on this album. And it works really well. Often those sort of group plus orchestra things can be a bit of a mess. I don't think this one is. I think it works excellently. Side 2, you have a live version of the intermezzo from the Corelia suite, which is really, really good. Includes the orchestra. You get their first recording of the Pathetique Symphony, third movement, again with the orchestra. Then you get 2 tracks, which is just the band, a live one, which is a cover of Dylan's Country Pie interpolated with Brandenburg Concerto No. 6. What a brilliant idea, combining Dylan and Bach. I love it, and it's just great. And then you get the very strange studio track, One of Those People, which, lyrically is a bit creepy, and I think it's supposed to be, but terrific album. Really, really love it. Probably just pips Ars Longa Vita Brevis, because I love the Five Bridges suite so much. But my number 1 nice album is, and probably always will be, their debut, The Thoughts of Emerlist Davjak from 1968. This is mostly in the sort of psychedelia rather than progressive rock genre. And I really, really like it. I think it works wonderfully well. This is the only album with the full participation of their guitar player, Davy List. It's great. It's a fabulous album. Every song on it is great. Flower King of Flies, wonderful way to open an album. Thoughts of Emerlist Davjak is a wonderful song. Bonnie Kay is a fun rocker, and probably one of the very few original pieces that they did that didn't include a writing credit for Keith Emerson. It's written by Davy List and Lee Jackson. Then there's their Rondo, which is a sort of a cover version of Blue Rondo a la Turk by the Dave Brubeck Quartet, except they do it in 4/4 rather than 9/8, which apparently baffled Dave Brubeck why they would do that, but he was still complimentary of it. That was my first exposure to the piece. I didn't hear the Dave Brubeck version till later on. And I do prefer the Dave Brubeck version more, but this is still a wonderful, wonderful rock version of it. And they do interpolate like some other classical music into it as well. War and Peace is really good. Tantalizing Maggie. Dawn is really wonderful and creepy. And then you have The Cry of Eugene, which I've heard different things as to whether it was a response to or an inspiration for Careful with That Axe, Eugene by Pink Floyd. I don't know about that, but I think it may have been a coincidence. I mean, let me know in the comments if you've heard differently, but just a fabulous, fabulous album. Anyway, that's my nice albums ranked. I shouldn't really call it studio albums ranked because it's definitely a mixture of studio and live stuff. But anyway, going through it again, at number 1, we have The Thoughts of Emerlist Davjak. Number 2, Five Bridges. Number 3, Ars Longa Vita Brevis. Number 4, Nice. And number 5, Elegy. So let me know in the comments what your ranking of the Nice studio albums would be, where you think I got it right, where you think I got it wrong. I love reading the comments. It's really good to hear when people have opinions on the music, and please feel free to disagree with me. I'm not the expert on this. This is just my opinion on my rankings. Everybody hears these albums differently, as Pete Pardo would say, and I love to hear differing opinions. Please like, share and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. If you're new to the channel, please go and have a look at some of my other videos. If you're looking for more sort of Keith Emerson related material, I do have a studio albums ranked of Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and I also have an In Defense Of episode where I defend the much maligned Love Beach album, which is the best performing video on my channel so far, strangely enough. I don't know quite why that is, but anyway, I'll link to both of those in the description of the video. Thank you very much for watching, and sorry, before I go, if you want to follow me on social media, I'm at bicyclelegs on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram, I'm mostly posting the records I happen to be listening to at the time. Twitter, I talk about anything and everything, but I am trying to give that more of a music focus. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.